from Cleveland, Ohio, presenting the undefeated, undisputed heavyweight podcast of the world, the Big Play Reflog Show.
Okay, do you need medical attention?
Yeah.
What is wrong?
I don't know. I know damn well. Attack by Chuck. He's to the 10. He's still running to the 5. He tips up back. He's going in. Touchdown.
It's time! The Big Play Reflog Show!
What is up, everybody? Welcome on into the Reflog Show here on the Big Play Network. I'm Nick Padone, joined in studio by the one and only Mr. Chris McNeil, all the way up 71. What is up, Chris?
How you doing, Nick? Beautiful morning here in Cleveland, Ohio. Fun to be in studio today. Kind of a special treat for me. I was actually in town all weekend here. Saw my son play a high school game on Friday. Saturday was there at the Guardians. Saw Manny Ramirez go into the Hall of Fame. And then yesterday, had a nice afternoon with the Akron Rubber Ducks.
The Rubber Ducks. What a busy weekend for the Reflog. And it's kind of a busy time of year. Now you look at it, week 0 for college football is officially here. High school football started up last week. And we got Browns inching closer as the Guardian season kind of dwindles down for good this time. So we're going to get into a packed show. It is just me and Reflog. We're going no guests. It is just going to be the two of us, and we are going for it. What do you say, Bohm, that we kick things off with a little fill in the blank and just jump right into some Cleveland sports stuff? Alrighty, fill in the blank time. We'll start off with this one, boy, and it's a doozy. Number 1, Cade York posting on Instagram during halftime is blank.
Embarrassing. Embarrassing. I know that he doesn't run his own handle. From what I understand, he has a social media guy, but whoever that social media guy is should know enough to know not to post on Instagram when you got a kicker who's been far from consistent, and that's putting it mildly, so far through this preseason, dating back to last year. Really the best kick that he's had, and the only thing that he's done for us really in the last couple of years was the opener last year against Baker. And for his social media guy then to go on and post, that's embarrassing. Just give it some time, go through the whole game, make that final kick, and then we're having a different conversation today, Nick, than what we are right now.
Yeah, I'm going to say it's not that big of a deal because I feel like even if he would have, if he made that last kick, even having had posted at halftime, we wouldn't be talking about this. This would be a non-factor. I think the bigger issue here is that he missed both of those kicks back to back. And that was obviously pretty ugly. Obviously, the one is a penalty on the Eagles, so you don't really know if that jumbled his ability to make the kick or not.
You're giving him too much there.
And then the next one was just pushed all the way in the wrong direction. That was...
See, I was thinking now, taking this another way, if we were on an alternate timeline in this case, and he makes that first kick, then there's a penalty. Do you have the stones as a coach, Kevin Stefanski, to take the penalty, make him kick it again because we know he's been so inconsistent this year?
I think they try to practice it like a game, you know.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That is a game situation.
True.
Put him
That's
back
tough.
out there, Nick. He made it once. You take the penalty, go up 5 yards, make him make it again. Now, that's all revisionist history. Obviously, that's alternate timeline type of stuff. But I was thinking about that, one of the random thoughts where, boy, it would have been nice to get him that kind of exposure, give him that kicking in that type of, pressure situation that we have question marks about. And obviously we know what happened. Instead, he missed it twice, and it leaves a bad taste in our mouth over a game that really shouldn't have mattered that much. We looked pretty good overall, You
all
saw
reserves
the
against their reserves,
and we end up talking about our kicker Freaking kicker again, Nick.
What do you do with the Cade York situation, Chris? Obviously, friend of show. We've had him on here a bunch. We know that the leg is for real. We know that the leg is big. He's perfect in practice. We don't see these issues showing up. He's every day. You see 6 of 6, 8 of 8. And then in a game, it seems like it crumbles away. There's talk of, do you bring competition in? There's talk of, like, what do you do? Do you just replace the guy? Do you see what happens week 1?
I've been advocating for a couple of weeks now. You got to bring in another kicker. Make these practices where he's famously making everything from like 80 yards, make those kicks harder. Make him tougher on him. Make him at least think that he's got some kind of competition there, because I think when there's nothing on the line right now for Cade York, it's very easy for him. As soon as there's something on the line, then it becomes difficult. And if you have somebody in there pushing him in camp, then at least he's got to give that second thought on these.
My fear in that argument, I see you on that, but my fear is they've waited too long, because now it's like you only have one more week of practice, one more preseason game, and you got to make your decision. So now I almost think that they've made their bed and they got to lay in it, and they got to see what this kid does in Kansas City next week in Arrowhead, final preseason game. Mary Kay, another friend of show, wrote in her column that like they are serious when Stefanski says that they trust him and they don't want to cut ties with the 4th round pick, and they see the leg. They think that everything's fine.
So plan B then. You go, you take a big old truck of money, you bring it down to Texas, you bring up Phil Dawson just to coach him. I'm not talking about Phil Dawson kicking for us, although he can kick in practice against Cade York, and that would be kind of fun to see how that turns out. But coach Cade York along. Teach him all the finer points of kicking in our stadium, of kicking during a pressure situation in games. Give him that opportunity, because I think he needs something. And I would love to see, like you said, Cade York is a friend to show. I think he's a good guy. I'd love to see him succeed here. He's got the big leg. And I think somebody like maybe a Phil Dawson, it sounds crazy. I know he's coaching down there in Texas. I think he might be able to help out a little bit, help a younger guy like Cade, and maybe show him some ropes that he hasn't picked up on yet. Because you got Bubba Ventrone, who he's never kicked before, right?
No.
He's not a kicker. He's a great special teams guy, but not as a kicker. So bring in somebody who knows what they're doing.
The one team in the league that has a kicking coach, the Baltimore Ravens. Their kicker is Justin Tucker. It almost seems like
reliable.
It's kind of shocking that no other team around the league has figured that out. Like, I don't know. Maybe bringing in a kicking coach could be good. I hope they figure this kicking thing out. It's like the whole storyline is kind of just tiring. Like I'm so sick of reading about it everywhere and then seeing it on Twitter. Like, it's been this way since Phil Dawson. Like, just find me my kicker. I don't really care if I hope it's Cade because I love the kid, but if it's not, let's just find somebody that can make these kicks. Like, how hard could it possibly be?
Is it because we drafted him? Is that why he's sticking on the way he is? Because it seems like not bringing in competition right now, he's made us all uneasy. Even on the ones he makes, they don't look solid.
No.
I think that if he wasn't drafted, if he was a guy we brought in, I think he'd be gone right now.
Yeah. I mean, he was yeah, I think so. Or if at least not gone, at least there would be somebody in there with him. Like, it is kind of crazy because it's not uncommon to not even have competition in camp. Like, call it a competition, call it whatever, but just to carry 2 kickers. And then usually some teams will let one sit on the practice squad just because, like, especially during COVID, a couple years back during COVID, or even kicking is weird. What if Cade York stubs his toe getting off the plane? Then what? What if he catches COVID? Then what? Like, you just have
wishing COVID on him?
No, I'm not wishing anything on him, but him making his kicks, but they just have zero backup plan at all, which is kind of crazy.
No, and that's very concerning. That's my number one thing right now as you look at preseason training camp. My number one concern is kicker, because we know we've got a team that is so talented, right? This is the most talented team we've had since we've been back. And so what do we keep saying in the NFL? You win in this league, especially in this division, at the margins. What is a kicker? What is a kicker? What is a field goal kicker? That's at the margins, my friend. We are here. We are living in the margins. That's where we need Cade York. We need this guy to be right. And whatever that takes, we need to do it. Bring in somebody. Bring in Phil Dawson. Do something. Get this guy right, because God knows we don't want to be talking about this October, November, December, costing us games. And you and I, as we sit here right now, I'm 100% confident we will be.
Yeah, exactly. And come week one, come actual regular season games. I know the cool thing right now, the fun thing to do, everybody online is doing it, is people are ripping Cade. Cade sucks. Why is he posting on Instagram? Come week one, when he starts missing kicks, I'm not coming at you, Cade. I'm not going at Cade York at all. At that point, Chris, and I know you know this as a father, you can't blame the kids. You got to blame the parents. I'm going after Andrew Berry. I'm going after Kevin Stefanski. What were you guys doing when we were in here in August preaching all preseason long? We got to figure this thing out. We got to figure this thing out. You can't just keep rolling status quo and expect things to magically fix themselves. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, the Browns play this weekend in Kansas City. It'll be another opportunity for Cade and only Cade to make some kicks, and then from there we're on to week one.
That's right. I guess, my team is on the field. My team is on the court, as they said in Hoosiers, and that's what the Browns are going with right now, and that leaves me really uneasy.
Yeah. All righty. Well, yesterday, Nick Chubb and Grant Delpit got into a little bit of a shoving match. Seems like Nick Chubb is kind of taking a new approach this season. I feel like I've seen him do more interviews. He's definitely been a little bit more vocal, showing a little bit more emotion. Nick Chubb being a more vocal leader is blank.
Refreshing. This is a guy who's been the leader on the field, and it's nice when you got a guy who's a true leader on the field, respected not only within the organization but around the NFL, who can also do it in the locker room. And we've known that he's been able to do that in the locker room, kind of behind closed doors. He's always been kind of a quiet type with the media and with the fans and everybody else. We've joked about the fact that every time anything big happens on the team, he's the one who doesn't say anything, right?
Yeah.
There's that meme that I always send out there with just totally blank, and it's like Nick Chubb's comments on whatever the passing thing with the Browns is at the time. But now he's taken that into the locker room. I think that's good to see. I think that's good for the team. I think it's good for Nick Chubb. It shows his growth. I don't know what he wants to do beyond football, but it's part of his growth as a person, as a football player, as a leader, and it can only be good things for this Browns team.
Yeah, I've tweeted this once before because it is so infrequent whenever he speaks, but when Nick Chubb speaks, people listen. And I think he has that effect on not just the Browns, but the whole league. I mean, he was vocal in the Saquon Barkley holdout. He was talking to the media that he was a member of that Zoom call that all the running backs had when they were discussing the future of paying that position. So I think this is kind of the evolution of Nick Chubb, a new Nick Chubb. And I think it just speaks volumes to, Chris, how this offense is going to evolve. We hear that they're going to go 5 wide. They're going to throw the ball a lot more. I think Chubb is in for a big, big season. I know we boosted it on Tipico a couple weeks ago, him to lead the league in rushing. It's kind of crazy that he hasn't done it yet. It feels like if there was a year to do it, though, it's going to be this year.
I know it was a few weeks ago, but you brought it up, that infamous call with all the running backs with Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
I still wonder what those running backs are feeling after Saquon Barkley went and basically signed the deal that he had on the table with very little past that.
Yeah. I almost want maybe that's what they talked about on the call. Maybe they were like, we'll just kick this can down the road till next year and see what happens. I don't know. But I definitely am excited about Nick Chubb. And we got some more Browns bets for you guys, too, coming up later in the show. The Cavs schedule was released this week, Chris. They are getting 17 nationally televised games. The Cavs getting a lot of primetime love is blank.
It's great. It's great. I kind of come out two ways on this. Number one, I hate when nationally they start to pick up on our team too early, because I think that puts pressure on us. But secondly, I also like our team, ironically enough, to be playing in these spots, because just like Cade York, you want to have that pressure. You want to see whether when the lights come on, as Jared Allen had said, when the lights come on, they're not too bright for us, right? So give us all of those primetime games. Give us that opportunity to either put up or shut up. Last year it looks like what do we have, 9 nationally televised games?
Yeah.
This year that jumps up almost double. I mean, that tells you that nationally they're expecting a lot out of this team, and that's no surprise to anybody locally. We've been watching this team get upset last year in New York. That was a big disappointment for the season. But overall, I think we've got the pieces.
Yeah.
Right? We got the pieces. Everybody wants to see what this team is. And I hope it's not too much of a tryout for Darius Garland for any other markets. But nonetheless, I do like to see our guys hitting the prime time.
For sure. I think it's well-deserved. I mean, I get what happened last year, and there were so many people who were just down and out on the Cavs because of that first-round exit last year. Yeah. But what Jared Allen said, I believe, is true for those guys. The lights were literally too bright. I think Kobe Altman did a really good job this entire offseason of filling out some of the other key pieces of that roster. Come playoff time, I don't know. Maybe the same thing happens again until you finally figure out what to do with Jared Allen. I'm still not a believer there. I think maybe that's a deadline thing where you got to just dump the guy. But I definitely think 17 nationally televised games in the regular season is deserved because they went ahead and they put together a really nice showing last year in Donovan Mitchell's debut with the Cavs. And now the roster's filled out. We'll get to see Max Strus shooting threes in prime time. The minivan, George Niang, will be out there. So should be some fun in prime time for the Cavs. All right, next one, blank should be the next player inducted into the Guardians Hall of Fame.
Does it have to be a player? Because I'm going to go Tom Hamilton.
Okay.
Why not put Hammy in there? These teams have come and gone for us. Players come and go. And he has been just, as everybody knows, he's a legend. He's a legend not only here, but also nationally. It's somebody that as soon as a huge play happens, everybody on social media immediately clamoring for where's the Hammy call? Where's the Hammy call? I mean, he transcends this organization. He transcends the games that he calls. He makes them bigger than what they are. Yep. I think Tom Hamilton deserves to get a look. Put him into our Hall of Fame.
I agree. Definitely a big piece of Cleveland baseball history. I mean, when you think of Cleveland baseball, you think of Tom Hamilton. The amount of years that he's been at it, the memorable moments that he's had throughout these different teams. You mentioned come and go, early on in my life, I remember, like Jason Giambi calls where the team really didn't have much of a real chance in the postseason to the actual historic, postseason runs with Rajai Davis and, the World Series and Lindor and the Grand Slam. So there is so many fun, hammy memories. I think that he's totally deserving. And we've seen it been done before with announcers going into the Hall of Fame or the rafters. I know the Cavs have the late, great Joe Tate up there in their kind of banner type area. And I totally think Hammy fits the bill, certainly in the game of baseball, to kind of go down as a Cleveland legend.
Now, you're not at this point in your life yet, Nick, but once you have kids and you're doing things around the house and everything else, Tom Hamilton has been my babysitter for years and years. What do? You mow the lawn, you put on Hammy. You're out there painting the deck, which I still need to finish. You're painting the deck, you put on Hammy. You're driving the kids, you're schlepping them off to football games, to practices, to everything else. You
Hammy's
throw
on
him.
Yep.
He's always there. He is the guy. All these other guys kind of come and go. He's the guy. The sound of summer for Cleveland is Tom Hamilton, and that's why I'd love to see him in. Now, if not him, I'd say the next person, if we're actually going player, I'd say CeCe.
Yeah,
go CeCe
I'm with
Sabathia.
you. And I think he was in town for the Manny Ramirez celebration, and I saw he was doing like a little youth camp type thing down here in Cleveland too. So CeCe was in town. Maybe some of those conversations happening. But
they're greasing the skids to get that guy in, because I think not only on the field, obviously what he's done with the Cy Young, but then also the fact that off the field, he's such a great story where he recognized, the alcohol was getting in his way, and he went through the classes. He transformed himself. He's become a better person. To me, that plays.
Yeah.
Not only what you've done on the field, obviously you gotta qualify with what you do on the field, but then also you look at the guy off the field and you say, man, this guy's really got things on the ball. He's a great story. When you see that plaque out there, you can go and say, hey, let me tell you the story of CeCe Sabathia.
Yeah, that is true. It almost is like maybe they're greasing it up a little bit. I know he was inducted to the Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame, I believe, last year when he was like the literal like man of the hour at the Greater Cleveland Sports Commission award show that they do. So, yeah, that would be a nice one too. Last one for you, fill in the blank. blank is the Browns' third running back. This isn't in the notes. We were just talking about it pre-show. Obviously, they have Nick Chubb. They have Jerome Ford. Bring this convo full circle, wrap up with some Browns. Who's going to be the third Browns running back, Chris?
Third Browns running back is not on the roster right now.
Wow.
I think they're going to bring in somebody. I really do, from the outside. I think that's a spot that they really want to have competition at. And I think that, you get into depth at the running back position, that starts to become more of a revolving door. You got Nick Chubb at the top, so you've got a little bit of wiggle room as an organization to be able to play with that. And I don't think it's going to be on the roster. I think it's going to be somebody that we pick up a little bit later on after final cuts are done.
Yeah, and I think it is something that they want to figure out somewhat quickly, only because if you remember when that Jerome Ford injury initially happened, they said that he was doubtful for week 1. Like that was looking like maybe around week 3 we could expect Jerome Ford to kind of make his debut as that Browns running back too. So I understand that they want to shore up that spot. They've tried things this preseason with John Kelly. They've tried things with Jordan Wilkins, who Andrew Berry has a big crush on. He took Wilkins when he was back with the Colts years ago, did Andrew Berry. I'm going to go ahead and cast my vote. I'm going to keep pounding the table for my guy, Demetric Felton. I just think that he offers Deshaun Watson a safety valve, which we need, and it's the perfect complement to Nick Chubb. Look at what Kareem Hunt's strong suit was, and it was the ability to catch the ball out of the backfield and really cook in space. Kareem, I feel like in his entire Browns career, was good running through the tackles, but he was no Nick Chubb running between the tackles. And I think that's the same thing with Demetric Felton. Look at how the Chiefs use Jerick McKinnon, where you just swing him the ball, get him the ball in space, and let Felton use that speed. I think having DTR in town is kind of interesting. I would like to keep Felton in town and just kind of ride those UCLA vibes a little bit, because I think Demetric has shown enough throughout his last couple of years with the Browns to hold a spot this year and then really to take the opportunity when called upon. I just like that he's a little bit of a gadget guy and he could kind of do a little bit of everything. And I think Stefanski needs somebody like that in this offense.
Yeah, and he's a hybrid. Like you said, he's a change-it-up type of guy, which is what you're going to want out of that type of a position. I just still feel, and I like him, and I like Felton. I think he could do well for us, but I just think that that's going to be the position we're going to do some tinkering with.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. They've been known to do that, kind of scour the waiver wire, and if somebody gets cut after the initial 53, could poke around there. But I'm still going to keep pounding the table for Demetric Felton, because I have this vision of the Browns using Deshaun Watson and Demetric Felton the same way that Andy Reid used Patrick Mahomes and Jerick McKinnon, where he's just out there in space, just get him the ball. Amari Cooper's not open. Njoku's covered. Oh, there's Demetric. Just dump it off and let him get 13 yards on his feet.
Jersey test. If he makes the team, you get in a jersey. Let's see how much you love him.
If he comes on our show, I'll get a Demetric Felton jersey if he makes the team.
Because that's the ultimate test of anybody, especially when they fall in love. And this really doesn't apply to Felton as much as some of these other marginal guys coming out of camp. It's like, you love that guy? Go get his jersey. If he makes the team, you have to get his jersey. That is the rule. That tells me how much you really love it. How many people would be running around right now, Nick, with Josh Lentz jerseys in Cleveland from several years ago? That's where you're putting your money when your mouth is.
Do you think we'll see any Austin Watkins Jr. jerseys? Maybe people flipping over that number 80, using that switch stitch to put on Watkins Jr. on the 80?
I don't know, but there's certainly going to be some DTR ones.
Yeah.
And
that
he's making the
17
team,
is sharp, too.
I tell you what, he has shown out so far in preseason.
I know. Deshaun, you better play well. You know how this town works. I'm not going to be calling for it. I understand. 3 first-round picks, $230 million, fully guaranteed. But that dog pound when the beers are flowing, that Twitter machine when the beers are flowing at home, I guarantee there will be some DTR tweets if things start going the wrong way. So, Deshaun, you better play well.
Week 1, Joe Burrow totally upstages us. What happens? It's all DTR all the time. I don't care if Cade misses like 3 field goals. It's going to be all DTR talk 24/7 in this town.
He is electric, and we will talk some DTR because it is time to get you guys into our big play bets this week. Alrighty, you could bet with me. You could bet with Chris every single week of the football season with Tipico Sportsbook. It is the final week of NFL preseason. That means it is week 0 for college football. Football is back. Download the Tipico Sportsbook now. When you do, use promo code REFLOG. What that's going to get you is $150 of bets on us plus a $30 dog pound future bet. Every week from now until week 1, every week on the show, we've been doing it. We've been boosting different futures for you guys to use this $30 bet credit on. We'll get into what we're boosting this week a little bit later on the show, but you're going to want to download it as soon as we're off air. Tipico Sportsbook, download it. When it asks you, you're punching your information, that promo code is REFLOG. You'll get $150 bets on us and a $30 dog pound future. You got to be 21 years or older to gamble in Ohio. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. The big play boost of the week. Drum roll, please. This is my favorite one by far. One that I will be using my $30 dog pound future on. Probably a little bit more. Will Myles Garrett win Defensive Player of the Year?
Why not?
Yes.
Why not? Let's go crazy. Let's go crazy. It's the preseason. Everybody's feeling kind of good right now outside the Cade York situation. Certainly feeling good about the defense, about what Jim Schwartz has been doing, about the interior of that line. All the pieces that we've added there at defensive tackle should free him up. I think he could have a big season. We're talking about a huge season if he wins Defensive Player of the Year. Why the heck not? Let's just go for it.
I think my biggest takeaway of the preseason thus far, sans Cade York, is that Joe Woods needs investigated. Maybe Joe Woods was betting on these games last year because Jim Schwartz has that defensive line humming, and Myles Garrett hasn't even played a game yet. Zadarius Smith looks like the real deal, and really what we hoped Jadeveon Clowney was going to be in his 2 kind of clunky years with the Browns. So I'm going to go with it as well. I'm going to take the boost on the Tipico app. I really think that this is the year Myles Garrett wins Defensive Player of the Year. Every year it's really so close between him and TJ Watt. Every year it seems like something little goofy happens to Myles some midway through the year, whether it be injury, whether it be a car accident. But I think this is the year that Myles kind of gets the monkey off his back and wins Defensive Player of the Year.
What are the odds on in the first regular season game, the first score for the Cleveland Browns will be a safety?
A defensive score.
Defensive score.
It's got to be pretty good. I mean, they're undefeated in the preseason, right? They got a safety.
What?
Or did they not get one in the Eagles game?
No, they've gotten 2, but
okay.
we've lost 1 game, right?
Yeah, but I meant undefeated getting a safety in every game.
Oh,
have they gotten a safety?
Getting a safety in every game. I know of 2.
Yeah, so I totally think that this is the year that Myles kind of wreaks some havoc. If you were to just regular bet it, it's 8-1. So we'll see what Tipico does with our boost. By the time the show is live this evening, it will be up on the Tipico Sportsbook app, and that'll be a really nice return if you throw 50 on Myles to win Defensive Player of the Year. I think the key thing to track there is the sacks. They kind of just give it to the sack leader every year. So unless TJ Watt gets in his way, maybe Micah Parsons, I really see a clear path for 95 to win it. All right, let's go and look at Browns versus Chiefs on Saturday. This one is at Arrowhead. It's been a lot of fun doing our anytime touchdown scores, Chris, and I know you've been going on the Elijah Moore train.
Right.
Kevin Stefanski gave us a glimmer of hope for the Elijah Moore anytime touchdown score ahead of week 1. The starters will play between 20-25 plays on each side of the ball for this preseason game. So that means it could be more than one drive if it's a quick drive. Chris, are you doubling down? Are you going Elijah Moore anytime touchdown score in preseason, the final preseason finale? We hear it used all the time. The dress rehearsal is what they call this game. Do we get a true look at the Elijah Moore anytime touchdown score?
I can't jump off now. You got to go Elijah Moore. I want to see that anytime touchdown. Let's go. I will say the dark horse once again, Anthony Schwartz, because we continue to try and do whatever we can to get that guy some action and have him work out. I don't know what kind of pictures he's got of Stefanski, of anybody in the front office, but nobody on this team has been given more opportunities to make a play than Anthony Schwartz. So I wouldn't be surprised if he picks up an intertime touchdown, 50 yards receiving, any of the above, maybe 50 yards rushing, maybe a kick return, punt return, maybe he kicks a field goal. They want to see if he can work as the towel boy at this point. I mean, they're open to anything, so I could see that, but yeah, give me Elijah Moore. He's going to score an anytime touchdown.
I like it, and I am actually going to bet that with you this week. I've been so skeptical because, man, Stefanski sometimes he's very conservative about how much these dudes play in the preseason. But I think because he said so early in the week, literally coming out Sunday, saying that our starters are going to play, I believe him when he says that. So I like Elijah Moore anytime touchdown score. But I think if you want to have a little bit of fun, it's the last week of the preseason. Guys are battling for jobs. We talked about him a little bit before. Austin Watkins Jr. has been the story, really, in the receiving room of the preseason. And now it's kind of, can he beat out David Bell? Can he beat out Jakeem Grant to be that last receiver that sneaks his way onto the roster? There's been a lot of chatter of it online. I think if he scores a touchdown in this game, he has a good opportunity. I think it's going to be hard for him to make this roster, Chris. I know a lot of people think it's a foregone conclusion that he's on there, but Barry holds on to those draft picks like diamonds. And I think David Bell just being a third-round pick, they're not going to want to risk sliding him through waivers. But here's the thing with Austin Watkins. You can't put him on waivers. Somebody will scoop him up for sure. That's not a practice squad candidate by any means. So I don't know what happens after this, but I think if Austin Watkins Jr. catches a touchdown in this game, then there's a chance. All right, let's go with this last bet for Saturday. Will Cade York miss a field goal or point after attempt?
Don't put that evil on me. Come on.
He's got to be perfect. He's got to be perfect.
Yes. Come on. We've got to have all good mojo in here. Cade York, he ain't missing anything. He's going to be money from 60 yards. He's going to be money from 10 yards. He's going to be money on extra points. Book it.
Little side bet. Will any Browns player, how could we get this up on Tipico? They would never. Please, just this one time. Will any player post on social media at halftime? I'm going to say no. I think Stefanski hopefully got those boys right and taught them a lesson. All right, let's go Wednesday. Kind of go rapid fire through these bets. Yeah. Guardians versus Dodgers Wednesday. It'll be Gavin Williams versus Clayton Kershaw. That's a big matchup. But our bet here is, will Ahmed Rosario get a hit in this game?
Come on. Good mojo. Ahmed Rosario. Let's go. He's going to get a hit. He's more than a glove. Let's go.
Ahmed is hitting .237 with 3 home runs and 12 RBI in his 19 games with the Dodgers this year. I'm going to say, yeah, he's going to do it. Probably against his old buddy Gavin Williams. Let's go to Friday. This one is on ESPN Plus. Guardians at Blue Jays. I've seen a game at Rogers Center out there in Toronto. Yeah. It is the weirdest place, hands down, to catch a game. It's like if you were watching a game inside of a tomato soup can that's turned upside down. It is so weird. Like, Vladdy was hitting home runs, and I was losing it in the ceiling. I'm like, is that foul? Did that get out? Like, as just a spectator, I had really no idea what was going on. It's going to be Tanner Bybee versus Chris Bassett, who's a good starter for Toronto. What are we thinking here? Build a same game parlay. Obviously, Guardians money line. Do we ride with Bybee? He's been kind of hot. You take the strikeout over on Tanner.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to me to see how he begins this game, because that's kind of been his sticking point.
Yeah.
So maybe we look at the first couple of innings. Maybe he doesn't give up a run. We do something exotic, something we haven't done before.
Yeah, like a first 5 innings bet. You know, we could do like Guardians just to win first 5 innings and Bybee to. Yeah, we could totally do something early on in the game.
I like
especially that way our feeble bullpen doesn't get in the way of things come late in starts.
That's right. We don't leave it up to our bullpen. I think that's a good move.
I feel like, Chris, this is a record low for Gardos talk for us on this program.
Yeah, not much at all.
It goes
a couple of bets.
Goes to show you, man.
Hey, we did talk Manny being Manny a little bit. congratulations on the Hall of Fame to Manny Ramirez. Such a huge part of like my late childhood into high school years, that 95 team, the 90s overall. I mean, what he did here, went on to Boston, what he did over there. It was kind of cool, too, bringing it full circle to see him talk about Tito.
Yeah.
Because he mentioned him in that beginning, and it's like, oh yeah, I forgot.
Yeah.
That does kind of come full circle. But it was great to see him running into the outfield, coming in from the wall like he was coming out of the bullpen for that whole ceremony. Really touching. And then also the fact that all of our fans booed the Dolans. That was also quite interesting. Made kind of national headlines.
Yeah,
out there.
how about New York Post insider
Yeah.
Chris McNeil is kind of how I should have kicked this show off.
Yes, that's right. I haven't seen a dime yet, either from Elon or from the New York Post. For
Hey,
that
my
matter.
Elon check just hit.
Look at you.
$146, baby. Look out.
He's going to be off the show next week on
I know.
vacation, spending those
I'm gonna
146 soft-earned dollars.
Yep, I'm going to be on the beach with my Elon bucks.
Elon bucks. I can't wait to get mine. I can't wait to see what it's going to look like.
I feel like it's a mystery because I've seen accounts way bigger than mine get way less, and I've seen accounts smaller than mine get more. So
What's the most you've seen out there?
I think the most that I saw was that goofy ML football account that kind
I've
of just
seen that.
regurgitates news. I saw he posted last night. He got like $7,000. I'm like, is that the sauce? We got to just start a
That's
big
depressing.
big play football, and it literally just copies and pastes Schefter's tweets with a shocking image and try to drum up the retweets and the likes that way. I don't know. Maybe that's our big play's next venture.
Wow, that's depressing.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I haven't seen my money yet, so maybe that just sets the bar. I'm looking forward to this. Elon, you owe me money.
Elon, he's coming for rent's due, baby.
That's
Rent
right.
is due. All right, thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of the Reflog Show. We will be back next week to do it all again, even once those Elon bucks clear through my PNC account. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we will see you next week. Peace.
It's time! Streaming live from Cleveland, Ohio! Presenting the undefeated, undisputed heavyweight podcast of the world! The Big Play Reflog Show!